We are ready for our Go Math lesson for today. It is 9.7 and we are on page 369. So today we are going to compare decimals. So by the end of this lesson, we are hoping that you can look at decimals and you can compare, just like we do with whole numbers. When a number has two digits like 23, it is obviously bigger than a number that has just one digit like 7. So 23 is greater than 7. Today we're going to be talking about this as fractions, which we've talked about fractions before. 1/3 is less than 2/4, and not by much, but it is. So we are able to compare fractions. So now we are going to be able to compare decimals. I do like to think of decimals as money. I think that makes it a little bit easier, especially when you're comparing, because if Craig has 23 cents and I have 7 cents, then obviously he has more money than me. So if we're writing it as a decimal, we can think of it as a money amount, and that would work just fine. So today we're going to talk about the city park, and it covers 64 hundredths of a square mile. About 18 hundredths of the park is covered by water, and about 2/10 of the park is covered by paved walkways. So the first thing I think you'll probably notice is that 18 hundredths and 2/10 do not have the same denominator. So we have to do some converting, just like we had to do when we had fractions, to get that denominator to be the same. So Craig is going to shade 18 out of the 100 little squares there. So he shaded 18 hundredths, and then he's going to shade 2/10 of the next one, because there's just 2/10 there, not hundredths. Okay, and they're close, but in which one did you shade more? Go ahead and
2/10.
Yep, so go ahead and make the symbol there, and that reads 18 hundredths is less than 2/10. So there's another way. Of course, they always show you the option on a number line, and I always tell you if we're in the classroom that a lot of us don't probably write out number lines, but it is nice to be able to see them and visually see how that works. So Craig, I'm going to have you locate 18 hundredths on the number line. Just make a circle dot, yep. And then I'm going to have you locate 2/10 on the number line. Okay, now this is exactly what I wanted him to do. I don't know how he reads my mind like this. He has actually indicated where 2 hundredths is on a number line, not 2/10. So 2/10, this number line is cut into, the small dashes are for the hundredths, and then the bigger marks are for the tenths. And it's only cut into 5 because we'd need a really long piece of paper. But Craig, I'd like you to erase that mark that you wrote right there. Do you know what you did?
Yeah.
Okay, can you show us how to do it? Then 2/10 is, oh yes, right there. So that would also represent closer to this one, where they are super close to the same amount, but they're different. Now, 2/10 is still greater. How is this one written, Craig, on the number line?
20 hundredths.
20 hundredths. So go ahead and do me a favor. Let's write out 18 hundredths. And Craig, write out 2/10. Now, yesterday we learned that we could change the 2/10 to hundredths. Will you just go ahead and do that right beside it now? Times 10 equals 20, good. And times 10 equals 100. So 2/10 is equivalent to 20/100, and it makes it a lot easier to compare when we're looking at the same denominator or the same place value. So in this case, it says that 18/100 is closer to 0. So go ahead and write 0.18, because that's closer to 0. We got to go back to the question though. It wants to know, is more of the park covered by water or paved walkways? And 18/100 is closer to 0. So 18/100 is less than 2/10. 18/100 is how many hundredths, Craig?
18.
Good, write that in. And 2/10, which is equivalent to how many hundredths? 20. Good. So 18/100 is less than 20/100. I know it's kind of repetitive. Oh, you gotta eat the bigger one, dude.
Oh, yeah.
There you go. And there you go. So more of the park is covered by paved walkways. Very good. Go ahead and turn the page for me. Okay. So you can compare numbers written as decimals by using place value. Comparing decimals is like comparing whole numbers. Always compare the digits in the greatest place value position first. So now we're going to talk about Tim, and what I love about this is they did change it to money. Tim has 5/10 of a dollar, and Sienna has 5/100 of a dollar. Notice how close these are, 0.5 and 0.05. However, they are a lot different from each other. So Craig is going to fill in for us how much of this model Tim has. 5/10 of a dollar. Okay, and then Sienna, looks like she has 5/100. Yep, so just 5 of those guys there.
6.
Okay. So who has more money?
Tim.
Tim, right? Tim on that line. Okay. Oh my goodness, Tim's proper, capital Tim. Okay, and then over here, they both have a 0 in the ones place. This top one is Tim, so you're going to write how many tenths for Tim and how many hundredths for Tim.
9.
Just put it then. That's an important number that we use sometimes. There you go. And then how many tenths for Sienna?
0.
And how many hundredths for Sienna?
5.
Good. So you're comparing just like you do alphabetical order. Obviously, if you have a 5 right here, that's going to be greater than 0. So 5/10 is greater than 0/10. See, what this is showing us is this comparison right here. So 5/10 is greater than 5/100. Okay. It would be the exact same if we had, would you write this for me? 0.10. And right below it, write 0.01. No, below it.
Oh. Sorry.
0.01. Obviously, this has a number in the greater value, a greater value of a number there. And so 1 is greater than 0. So this would be like saying a dime is greater than a penny. 10/10, or 1/10 rather, is greater than 1/100. Okay? So try this one. Compare 1/3 and, 1 3/10 and 6/10. So if this is 1 3/10, just make an X there. That's the whole thing is shaded. I don't need you to, yeah. And then how many? 1 3 Good. Now that is the first number. Now shade to show 6/10. They do give you both squares, that if there is a 0 in the ones place, then a whole one isn't shaded. So he's shading 6 of those guys in. And then which of those is greater? If the whole one and 3 of this are all shaded, then that one is the greater number. Okay, over here to show and share. Compare 39 hundredths and 42 hundredths. Craig, shade. Oh, cheater pants.
Sorry.
39. That's 29. 3 whole.
Oh.
Yep, you're okay. 3 whole and 9 of another row. Yep. 39 hundredths and 4 whole. And 2. Good. Now, Craig, you very quickly made this symbol. Can you tell me what you were thinking?
Well, 39 is greater than 42. And they're both, what? I mean, 42 is greater than 39.
Okay.
And they're both in the hundredths.
Okay. So it's 2 digits. You can look at 42. Also, this number that is in the tenths place is greater than the number in the tenths place of the other. So 39 hundredths is less than 42 hundredths. Okay, now they get tricky every once in a while. Go ahead and write this one in for us, Craig. 0.26 and 0.23. Just like if you were comparing or trying to put words in alphabetical order, sometimes you have to look further if they're the same, and then here's where you're going to do your comparison. Is 6 or 3 greater? I know you've already moved on, but is 6 or 3?
6.
Good, 6. So 26 hundredths is greater than 23 hundredths, okay? 7/10 or, oh heavens, what goes there?
0.
Yep, in both cases, right? 7. Okay. I'm going to have to talk to your mom about how sloppy your handwriting is. Okay, very good. So 7/10 is greater than 54 hundredths. Now, is 7 greater than 54?
No.
No. So what makes 7/10 greater than 54 hundredths?
7 is in the tenths and 54 is in the hundredths.
Okay.
If you multiply 7 by 10, it equals 70.
Oh.
And 54 and 70 is greater than 54.
Very good. All right, now be careful on this next one, but go ahead and try number 4 for us. Plug in those in they give you that little chart there. They both have a 1 in the ones. One has a 1.5. One has a 3. You just plug that 0 in right away. So we're able to know that 1.3 is greater than 1.15. Even though 15 is greater than 3, this you would have to add a 0 to give it the same amount of numbers before you compare. Can you just put a 0 right there for me? You have to have that 0 in there before you compare. So this changes from 3 to 30 in order for it to have the same denominator. 30 hundredths, 15 hundredths. Okay, what happens over here? 4.50, good. 2.89 and 4.5. And I think about this as money amounts. If you have $4.50 or $4.05, you have more money than if you have $2.89. So it's a lot easier to think about when you put that dollar sign in there, even if it's mental that you put the dollar sign in, okay? Now, I know that this is on your own. I just want to show you number 6 because you don't have this guide right here. So for number 6, Craig, when you're looking at that, you can see that you have a 9 in the tenths place, but maybe just below that, you multiply by 10 and you get 0.90. So you might just throw that 0. See how he threw that 0, even sloppy handwriting and all? 0.90 is greater than 0.81. So he made them common denominators before he even started. Same thing with this. What are you going to do to that one? You can't add a 1 in front, but you would multiply the 6 by 10 and you would just throw that zero on the end right here. And if you think about this like money. If you have $1.06, you have more money than if you have 60 cents. That might be an easier way to do it. So go ahead and do on your own. Page 371 and 372. There is Skinny Book 9.7, and I am going to, if you haven't done them yet, go ahead and stop the video now, and then start it again when you're ready to check, because I still haven't figured out how to upload a photo to Teams. And I'm just going to show you the answers here so that you are able to check your own. Craig did do number 6 and number 7 with us, but then if you want to do 8 through 17, and then it's always good to practice at least a few problem-solving story problems, because that's how we relate to our real lives. And then the Skinny Book, here are the answers for the Standard Practice Skinny Book 9.7 front and 9.7 back. Remember the spiral review, it will tell you what lesson to refer back to. And then you can go and look back at that page if you're forgetting how to do those. So, okay.